who are darker than blue. Don't let us hang around this town and let what others say come true. We're just good for nothing, they all figure. A boy should
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special Summer Pledge Drive episode of Darker Than Blue, the show where we talk about politics for the people who you just heard Brother Curtis Mayfield say are darker than blue. That's me and you, y'all. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome. It is 5 o'clock on Friday, August 8th. So that must mean I am Jacqueline Lukman. Here I am. And here you are. Thanks so much for joining this show today. And thank you so much for listening to WPFW in general. Because if you didn't listen to WPFW would not exist. We would not be here. And Darker Than Blue would not be on this station. And I am so proud to be a part of this incredible network, this unique and very, very important media apparatus that is WPFW, a part of the Pacifica Network. And it is very important for us to do these kinds of drives. From August 3rd through the 16th, our summer pledge drive is going on. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing right now. And this year we're presenting WPFW 48 years of centering Blackness. But if you are a fan, if you are a listener, and especially if you are a supporter and a sustainer of WPFW, and if you are not yet one of those things, you will be not even after this show, but during this show. But we're not just celebrating 48 years of centering Blackness, but if you've listened to WPFW for any period of time, you realize that we center people's struggles. And the struggle for Black liberation is just one part of those people's struggles. So absolutely this month, we will commemorate Black August and celebrate not only the freedom fighters, political prisoners, and those who've perished in the struggle for Black liberation, but also the scholars, musicians, poets whose work has served the Black liberation struggle. And we extend that to the people's liberation for every group of people who are represented on this show, and even for people who we haven't gotten around to including in this incredible lineup of programmers and artists and musicologists and historians and analysts that we have on WPFW. We do this because this information is incredibly important. These shows, particularly the public affairs shows, conveys information to you that those who are currently in power don't want you to have. And it's also information that those who were in power before the folks who were currently in power, they didn't want you to have it either. Information, knowledge is power, because information, the knowledge of how oppression happens, the knowledge of who is oppressed and who the oppressors are, and the knowledge of the way they do it and the way they lie to us about all of it. When you understand that you're being lied to and who's lying to you and how they're doing it, you understand that now that you have the truth, you have a weapon to challenge those who currently wield that power with. That's what I know we provide here on WPFW. And I am so incredibly thankful, again, to be a part of this network, to have this show on this network, and to work with the people that I do. So listen here. While we are here on this show for this hour for Darker Than Blue, we've got 50 minutes left about. I have a $500 goal. We can make this goal. I know we can because we've done it so many times before. But this time, if you have supported Darker Than Blue and WPFW before, I need you to please make an additional contribution now, just a one-time contribution if you're able to do it, of $12.50 a month. You need to become a sustainer if you have only done a one-time donation before. Why $12.50 a month? Well, if you make your $12.50 a month a sustaining contribution, WPFW will thank you in a particularly special way. Aside from me thanking you on the air today, and I'm very excited that earlier in the day in our programming, I co-hosted with the great, wonderful, fantastic John Kane on Resistance Radio, who I swear I'm going to get some shows together with when I get my schedule straight. The two of us really need to get together to put this history together. And he was able to do over his pledge goal. And I know you can do the same thing too. It's not me that's the magic sauce in this equation for these pledge drives, dear listeners and friends. It's not us programmers who are the magic sauce. It's you. So $12.50 a month. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. If you don't want to call, you can text to the number 801-801. Text the letters WPFWFM and text your pledge, or you can even Cash App $WPFWFM and Cash App your contribution. But hey, today, even as we're in the midst of this pledge drive, there are some really interesting and some of it's funny, but a lot of it is not, information that we're going to share. And I am really happy to be joined by another amazing programmer here on WPFW. And he just happens to be a close personal comrade. I consider him my brother, Anthony Rogers Wright, host of Full Spectrum, also here on WPFW Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Anthony, what's going on?
Hey, Pam, happy Friday. How are you? Looking great and shiny and energetic. I think you're still floating from your trip to the People's Republic, so it's good to see you as always.
I am. Every time I see mention of the word China, a picture of China, I become sad. I want to go back. Like, please. And I miss the noodles. I'm sorry, man. There is nothing like fresh noodles. Just amazing. But anyway, there's so much going on right now. And like, the first thing I really want to get to, Anthony, is the Orange Menace kind of melting down over the latest jobs report that came out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, we know, those of us who pay attention to politics, these jobs reports come out pretty regularly, like once every couple of months, or
every month. They come out every month.
Yeah, technically they come out every month, but they're not reported in the media until So when we hear about them, it's like once a quarter or something like that. But they actually produce these reports every single month. And Trump has made the argument that, because the latest labor statistics report, or we call it the jobs report, it looks pretty bad for his administration, really bad. So The Hill has reported that Trump said on his Truth Social platform that the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or shall I say now, the former commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Erica McIntarfer, had, quote, faked the job numbers, end quote, before the 2024 election in order to boost former Vice President Kamala Harris's White House bid. The Hill reported that an administration official later confirmed that he fired her. So we know that, yes, he did fire her. Trump cited labor statistics revisions during the Biden administration that boosted job numbers ahead of the election. The jobs report released just this past Friday showed a significant downturn during Trump's administration in May and June, indicating the U.S. added 258,000 fewer jobs over those months than had initially been reported. Trump said, according to The Hill on his Truth Social, quote, "No one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. End quote. That's I don't have a true social account because I don't have a lot of money, and I'm certainly not going to give what little bit I have left to him. But that's reported by The Hill. Just to be clear, McIntyre was nominated by Biden in 2023, confirmed by the Senate in 2024, and she was the 16th commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is, of course, a part of the Department of Labor. And she was confirmed in the Senate in a bipartisan 86-8 vote. So Republicans were fine with her then. Notably, Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who were both senators at the time, they voted in favor of her nomination. And the big deal about this, y'all, is that the president suggested that the jobs report was politically motivated. And he has made this argument saying that, he using it against the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell also for not lowering interest rates, basically for the same reason. They're doing these things to make me look bad. So here's what I want to get to, y'all. We all know what Trump has said about this. We all know what he did. He has said that the jobs numbers in the report are rigged in order to make the Republicans and me, that's what he said in his second True Social post, look bad, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. The jobs report has always been really sketchy. Very, very sketchy. Now, CNN and other news outlets try to explain how the Bureau of Labor Statistics comes up with the numbers in the jobs report. They claim, they say they collect jobs data in two separate surveys. The first is done in part with old-fashioned door knocking. Again, this is from CNN. I'm giving you the corporate media spin on this first, and then I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay? So CNN says that the Bureau of Labor Statistics does old-fashioned door knocking. Survey takers go home to home throughout the country, asking people for their employment status and their demographic information. Okay, here's the first problem, y'all. Whose homes are they going to? Have any of these survey takers come to your home? Do you know anyone who has been visited and surveyed by these folks? I have questions, and so should you. And then they say there's a second survey that's conducted, and that survey is known as the Current Employment Statistics, or CES survey, and that's collected from thousands of businesses and government agencies using a variety of methods, telephone, internet surveys, and for large corporations through an automated data transfer that CNN says by law, participation in the CES survey is voluntary. So why say by law if it's voluntary? There's no law that says they have to. So you don't have to say by law it's voluntary. There's no law that makes the, oh my gosh, I'm already angry. But state laws in New Mexico, Oregon, and South Carolina do require, so some states, like what is that, 3, New Mexico, Oregon, and South Carolina are the only states that CNN reports require businesses to produce the data for the survey. A law in Puerto Rico, I'm sorry, it's 4. Although Puerto Rico isn't a state, Puerto Rico is a colony. And that's a whole other show. Right. But it then says Puerto Rico also requires the territory's businesses to submit data to the BLS. CES survey respondents submit monthly employment hours and earnings data for all paid workers to the BLS from their payroll records. The data is collected for the pay period that includes the 12th of the month. And here is the second problem. We're trusting the very corporate entities that underpay workers, cut or eliminate benefits and retirement packages, intentionally reduce full-time hours for employees so they don't have to pay them benefits for that they would have to pay for full-time work, just so the corporate bosses can keep those corporate profits. from all that underpaid labor in the CEOs and board of directors and investors' pockets to accurately and honestly report their own employment. What?
Yep.
Are you out of your... So then CNN goes on to say, well, what does the BLS do to the data? They say that the economists first edit the data to detect processing and reporting errors. If mistakes are detected, BLS employees contact the business for clarification. This is just for the business data, y'all, just the CES data. Okay, so here's question number 3. And I actually hope y'all have more questions than I do, because these are just the top 3 questions I came up with. But here's question number 3, y'all. What mistakes are they looking for? How do they know when they have data that's considered a mistake? And if they claim that the employers themselves provide the data and they're self-reporting the hours worked and the wages, but why are they looking for mistakes? It can't be just me. How do they know something? Okay. Then CNN says BLS staff prepare the data for a monthly report by estimating America's employment. Then what y'all doing all these surveys for? What's that? Question number 4? To extrapolate the data for the entire country, BLS economists add in some educated guesswork. Again, why are we guessing? I thought this was surveys and self-reported. The BLS also smooths out the data. This is from CNN, y'all. This is the media that is supposed to be informing you. And they have given you this cloudy bowl of soup that you can't see the bottom of because it's full of stuff that you cannot identify. And that's where we're going to go right now. Because, Anthony, I cannot even begin to wrap my head around including guesswork and estimates in a report that's supposed to be derived from knocking on doors, talking to people about their income, employment, and getting employment reports directly from companies. But I hope you see that this is also the problem with the basic survey data in this country in general. Why are we trusting these people to tell the truth about anything, knowing how much they lie? But then when we talk about this data about employment and jobs in particular, they say they make adjustments based on seasonal adjustments. That's what BLS call that, seasonal adjustments.
Yeah.
Y'all, apart from like holiday temporary work.
Well, and farm workers too.
That's where I'm going. Yes, that's what the seasonal data is. It's the industrial farm work. So this man has deported a lot of seasonal farm workers from this whole entire country. And he's mad that
they're just not showing up anymore, right? Right, they're not showing up anymore.
It's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
It's crazy town. This is crazy town.
Yeah.
But I'm serious. This mess with the jobs report that comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics it's always been a problem because this data, I hate to say it. I hate to say it, Anthony, but Trump is actually almost telling the truth. Almost.
Yeah. I mean, except for the fact that, there has never been a BLS commissioner that had it out for a president, and it's specifically, the whole process, as you named, is based on so much guesstimation work. It's really like samples, and then they extrapolate from those samples. And not to mention the fact that, we know this is true because the unemployment rate, as they stated, is also not accurate. The unemployment rate is just people who have reported that they have looked for a job and not been able to find one. It says it does not account for the people who are out of the job market and just like, forget it because, it's too frustrating and but I'm not going to report it either. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very imperfect science for sure. Statistics is, right? Like what did Mark Twain say? 3 kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics, right?
I mean, that's hilarious.
But my mom, I can feel my mom. My mom is a statistician. She's mad at me for saying that, but it's true though.
I mean, because look, data is important, but you always have to question who is collecting the data, what they're trying to get at through the collection of the data, what kind of questions are they asking to get at what they want from the data, who they are asking, and then who is taking that raw data and what they're doing to it.
Right.
All of that.
Well, you know, the thing is that this has me like thinking about it. It's really interesting. And I just started a new book called Don't laugh at me. I'm not trying to do anything except read the book. So the book is called The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party.
Oh.
but it's really interesting because it goes all the way back to Henry Wallace, who I've even told you, comrade, is like probably my favorite Democrat of all time. This is a Iowa white man in the 1940s who really wanted to expand New Deal policies to our people because he understood they were excluded. And this, of course, got, you know, the Democrats upset, and that's how we got the war criminal Truman. 80 years of Hiroshima just occurred this week, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because not funny, but like what it really signals is sort of like there is a war in information, and this president has basically established that if you disagree with me, you're out. Mm-hmm. If you come for me in the past, I'm coming for you. Again, we are not like here to. I mean, we don't want any attorney general to basically be subjected to persecution because their politics are terrible. And this is, of course, Letitia James out of New York, who the DOJ just subpoenaed. Like, you know, they're going after her for her. You know, she got basically Trump's corporation liable for like $500 million in New York. And then, of course, chased out the NRA, the National Rifles Association. So, you know, and coming back to her, and then I know we're going to get to what we're also going to talk about down with our comrades in South America. But I mean, that's just the striking thing, though, right? If science doesn't agree with him, scientists are going to get fired. And in a way, that's already occurred with this clown, RFK Jr., you know, running Health and Human Services, right? And so I think that's this is the chilling effect, you know. And what it really means is that everything you just named, where the numbers were screwed and fudged to begin with, now we like cannot trust any numbers that are coming out of any federal agency because we do not know if the numbers are accurate or if they are objective numbers, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, right, I mean, like it's like look, it goes back to, remember when he called the dude in Georgia, right? It was like, just give me 15,000 more.
Right.
And again, like you and I, we are not here as vanguards for a Democrat Party message to defeat Trump and the Republicans. That is a part of a larger issue that Democrats also contribute to, just to be clear. I just want your listeners who may have not seen me before to not call you and curse you out for having a liberal on.
Don't you come after
but it's a major problem. And then you add in the advent of AI, which Trump is also trying to fast track. We have a crisis of constitution, which we've had since the Constitution was written anyway. And we have a crisis of information. And that's very important for revolutionary Black folk like ourselves, because we know that manipulation of information vis-a-vis COINTELPRO is a very dangerous weapon for movements, especially movements that may not be as disciplined and experienced as, say, a Black Alliance for Peace. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's the information. And then again, as we are, you know, speaking to your listeners, I just want to throw this in because here's the wee bit of capitalism that exists inside of me. You know, this is what makes shows like this, like not just like, you know, important, but necessary and epochal, because, you know, when people offer largesse to WPFW and our amazing, you know, production team and our amazing network of shows and programming, you know, you can be sure this is all accurate information. Okay. Jackie, you're not going to put anything out to the masses without thoroughly checking it, and nor am I, because if I did something like that, I would hear from you, and I would hear from Katya, right. And I'd hear from Ajamu, right. And I'd hear from Erica, right? Like, yo, bro, what's going right? So it's very, very important at a time when information is under attack. And I'm not trying to be all like, you know, I don't like the word Cassandra, but you know what I mean, because it's kind of misogynist, but to be a hyperbolic Cassandra, for lack of a better phrase. But this war of information, it extends also to what happened with public radio. Mm-hmm. It, of course, is extending what's happening in education, books being, banned and whatnot, blackness just being erased, right? You know what I mean? Like no one knows who Hubert Harrison is for a reason. And
that was
then
before
now,
Trump. And let's be
exactly.
clear, that was before Trump. We didn't know
That's
that
Black
our
people.
own history of
That's Black people.
revolutionary Africans in this country
Yes.
before Trump. So
Yes.
us blaming Trump on it.
I'm not blaming Trump for Hubert Harrison.
Mercy. No.
I'm not blaming Trump for Hubert Harrison. That's many of our own people. The Booker T disciples.
But see, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because now I'm going to get to the truth about this jobs report and what it really reflects. And this is why we do what we do, Anthony and I. This is why we do what we do here on WPFW. This is why we're so thankful for this platform, because we know this information, and as we learn it, we cannot hold it. It would be a gross dereliction of our duty as Black radicals, as being those who carry on the Black radical tradition, for us to know the truth and to keep it from our people. We don't do that. So if you appreciate what we do on Darker Than Blue and on Full Spectrum and on Resistance Radio and on WPFW, you just heard Anthony say, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is now defunded and shut down. No more PBS Kids. No more PBS Kids. If you like being able to go to your library and get books that you want, well, that's coming under attack. Department of Education, what Department of Education? Independent radio is all you have left, just about. So please support WPFW. Call 288-588-9739. 1-800-222-9739, Cash App $WPFWFM, text to the number 801-801, the letters WPFWFM, $12.50 a month. Become a sustainer of WPFW. Do it in the name of Darker Than Blue, please. If you don't want to do it in the name of Darker Than Blue, do it in the name of Resistance Radio. If you don't want to do it for Resistance Radio, do it for Full Spectrum. But support WPFW, because independent radio is the only place voices like ours will be heard. Corporate media don't want this. You know why? Anthony, I just happen to know a dope Black economist by the name of Dr. Linwood Tawhid. Now, those of you who are fans of and followers of Luke Mon Nation on Black Liberation Media, you know who Dr. Linwood Tawhid is. He's the Associate Professor of Economics and the Director of the Center for Economic Information at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and graduate faculty at the University of Missouri, Columbia. So Dr. Tawhid, who I'm really itching to get on this show live again for you on a regular basis, explained the problems with the jobs report. And he did so in an interview that I did with him way back in 2022 on the general state of Black economics in the US at the time. And he said then, this was before Trump was elected, he said then in 2022 that there is manipulation in how the employment numbers are reported. So he said they no longer reflect the true state of employment. And he explained the manipulation like this. The unemployment rate can be misleading because, first of all, like Anthony said earlier, to be considered employed means having made any income in the last 2 weeks. The way this is measured, and this is where that alleged door knocking comes in, the Bureau of Labor Statistics conducts about 50,000 to 60,000 surveys every 2 weeks, either via the phone or knocking on people's doors. And I think they switched to specifically the phone interviews during COVID. I do not know that they went back to knocking on anybody's doors. And now that all the people in the federal government are fired, there ain't nobody knocking on nobody's doors. So Dr. Tawhid said then they would call people and ask them questions, 50 to 60,000 people. That's it. One of the first questions they ask is, have you earned any income in the last 2 weeks? If someone says yes, like for example, I worked for Uber last week, or I picked up a passenger and made $10 like one time, like $10 in 2 weeks, they are considered employed. This means those people who earn $10 one time in 2 weeks are not included in the unemployment rate. So they're not asked if they had a job. They are asked if they earned any money. Goes right back to asking the question, what are the surveyors asking people, right? Then there's the idea of what employed means, because many people think being employed means working 40 hours a week. I mean, because that's what we were told it means. But most workers, of course, were full-time up to a point. Since the rise of the gig economy, especially exacerbated by the pandemic, people are finding it harder to secure full-time jobs. There are also other reasons why full-time work is becoming less common. But the point is, if you work just 1 hour in the last 2 weeks, you are considered employed, even if you only earned $1. Now, on the other side of that, to be classified as unemployed, you must have made 0 income in the previous 2 weeks and be actively seeking work. So in order to be determined or reflected as unemployed, you have to have not made money in the past 2 weeks. And this is just those 50 to 60,000 people that they survey, nobody else, right? You have to have not made any money in the past 2 weeks, and you have to tell them that you were looking for work. If you're underemployed or working part-time, but you want full-time work, you're still considered employed. So these workers are not reflected in the unemployment statistics. Consequently, the unemployment rate underestimates those who want more work or more hours and gig workers. Here's something very, very interesting. And I love these little tidbits of history. When the Affordable Care Act, we know it as Obamacare, was implemented, one of the rules for small businesses, those with fewer than 500 employees, was that they did not have to provide health insurance if their workers were part-time. What do you think they did? Many large corporations like Amazon, we knew they were already limiting their workers' work hours around 32 hours or so they didn't have to pay full-time benefits or full-time wages. This encouraged many more companies of Amazon size to switch to part-time work, increasing the percentage of part-time jobs and lowering the official unemployment rate. Even though underemployment remains high with those part-time workers. Many workers today are working fewer than 40 hours a week, but they want a full-time job. So while the unemployment rate appears low, or at least it did at the time when we talked about this in 2022, the real issue that is not reported is underemployment, which current figures don't fully capture. Thanks, Obama. Then there's the fact that the unemployment rate is based on the labor force pool, which requires individuals to be at least 16 years old. And then at some point, like on regular intervals, a bunch of 15-year-olds turn 16 and they enter the labor force, but not as full-time workers usually. So you've got, a country this size, 300 something million people, pretty much needs to add around 250, 280,000 jobs to keep pace on a regular basis. But even when the jobs report comes back saying, oh, we created 260,000 jobs, that doesn't mean everybody is full-time employees. So here's an example. So you can be really clear on what this means. Suppose a company replaces one full-time employee who worked 40 hours a week with 2 part-time workers or shifts a full-time worker to half-time and then hires another part-time worker. Let's say replaces the full-time worker with two teenage part-time workers, two 16-year-olds working 20 hours a week that they don't have to pay benefits for. So the total number of jobs that the company reports in their little CES report actually does increase, but the work hours do not increase. Why is this important? Because this allows companies to say they've added jobs, but it also is a reflection of the way they reduce costs, as part-time workers don't receive benefits. So companies increase profits while basically lying and saying, oh, we created more jobs. Technically, I guess, yeah, but you did not increase actual full-time employment, which is evident in the rising profits of large corporations, even amid a very small increase in the employment rate and the alleged creation of allegedly new jobs. They're not new jobs. So many of these are not truly new positions, but replacements or shifts from full-time jobs to several part-time ones. So if someone even earns $1 in the last 2 weeks through this kind of corporate scheme, they're still counted as employed, even though the economy is increasingly generating nothing but gig and part-time jobs, which do not add to the unemployment figures because those people are still counted as employed. And here we are thinking the Bureau of Labor Statistics means full employment, 40 hours a week, full pay, full benefit, and the BLS and the corporations that report this data, they know it's not. So Trump may have accidentally made a point that was accurate on its face. And oh, I hate to say it, but I have to say it because the truth is the truth. But as always, the details of his claim are not directed at making him look bad. These numbers aren't messed up and they weren't cooked because, to make him look bad. He did deport all those people. He did. And yes, he did it in a way that Obama and Biden didn't do it. But they were doing the same thing. They were just more polite about it. Okay, that's just the truth. And the media was honestly not focusing on the Biden and Obama era ICE raids that absolutely happened. Let's just be real about that. But also, he did fire all those people from. Like, how do you fire thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people from full-time employment in the federal workforce and somehow not expect those numbers to show? But the manipulation of the numbers that he's complaining about, he is right. That is done. The adjustment of the numbers is done, but it's not done to make him look bad. It's done because the way the data is collected in the first place is not an accurate reflection of employment, unemployment, who is employed, who actually is not employed, and how much people are actually basically, whether people are really working jobs that can sustain their life or not. There is no indication that any federal agency produces that gives us that information. So the jobs report, Trump claims that they cooked the books. He's actually telling a little bit of the truth, but the reason he said it is the lie. The fact that the books are cooked in the Bureau of Labor Statistic jobs report, that's been true almost ever since, well, maybe not ever since they've been doing it, but since the US government has been firmly in the palm of the hand of the corporate class in this country, they have made sure that you and I never know how bad unemployment is in this country. Never mind what you and I actually see in our neighborhoods, beloved. Never mind that you don't know anybody who has ever had their door knocked on by a Bureau of Labor Statistics surveyor. Never mind that you know a bunch of people with 2 and 3 gig jobs just to keep a roof over their head. And you and I know that there are no full-time jobs out there in our neighborhoods that will sustain our lives. But every quarter, these reports come out talking about they added 260,000 jobs to the economy. And you and me and everybody else around, they're like, where? Where are those jobs? Because the jobs that were created were not full-time jobs. So that I felt like that was such, this information is so critical to us understanding. And yeah, there are some little details. Look, I got an hour, y'all. There's not, we don't have a lot of time to go into every single level of details. You know, there's a lot that we could talk much more in-depthly about, which is why I want to have Dr. Tawhid on this show, so he can give you this information. Because, you know, there's this other thing on the left, Brother Anthony, you know how we do. We don't believe people until somebody with some letters before or after their name say it. And then when that person says the exact same thing that Jacqueline Luqman or Anthony Rogers Wright said, then all of a sudden it's legitimate. But, you know, that's something else that we can't do anything about. I'm just giving you the information that I was given by the experts. So take it however you will. But hey, listen, let me give you a real quick update. Thank you so much, Franny in Portland. Thank you, Portland, Oregon. I keep forgetting I cannot call people's names. Thank you so much, Portland, Oregon. Thank you, Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. Guess what, y'all? Our goal is now cut down to $235. You who are listening, let's get it. Let's go. We can knock it out of the park. But you know, Anthony, if we just call the Department of Justice, we might be able to solve this whole funding problem, you know? Stop laughing.
No, I mean, because what we're about to talk about, it's just, I don't know what's funnier, you know, the story itself that is just, you know, egregious and riddled in mendacity, or that they believe that people will actually like fall for this. And there are plenty of people who probably are already, but it's just, again, I mean, another machination of this particular administration, continuing off of the imperialism of previous administrations of both political parties. And it's obviously reached a fever pitch now with what with regime change.
Yeah. And the thing about this situation with the Trump administration, I can't even say it without laughing, because, oh God, the Trump administration basically, through the Department of Justice, issuing, what is it, a $50,000 reward?
Million.
Oh, 50 million. That's right. I'm sorry. 50 million. See, I'm broke. So a whole bunch of numbers behind any number confuses me. So $50 million reward from the Department of Justice. Wait a minute. I thought we ain't had no money for healthcare. Where'd he get $50 million? Like, but Anthony, don't we all know where Maduro is?
I assume he's in Venezuela. You know, it's nice this kind of time of year. I understand, and they have great beaches. I mean, but seriously, you know, tons of cocaine apparently, and it's like, yo, like now. I mean, we're finding out about this, the tons of cocaine. And apparently, Presidente Maduro has been one of the biggest narco traffickers like ever. You know, like you know, making like Pablo Escobar blush. This was the guy the whole time, apparently, and because of this, he needs to be held to account. You know, due to the successful U.S. war on drugs. You know what I mean? And it's just like, at this point in time, it's like whatever, people are just kind of like going into the Oval Office with like a fishbowl of ideas of like, he picks it in and like what story can we use to distract from Epstein today? Right. Let's roll with Maduro. being a global drug dealer and you know, and it was even the way she made her announcement. She was like, cocaine is largely cut with fentanyl, Okay, even if this was true, that Maduro's not, it's just it's I don't even, it really is sort of like what South Park is doing, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, these parodies. They're basically just showing us what our government is. It's a cartoon. It's literally a cartoon. And it's weird. It got me to a point where I was actually kind of feeling bad for Pam Bondi, because I was feeling more African American than Black today. It is Shabbat, and I'm and I was like, I can't believe, you had to like go and sell this or try to sell this, right? Like go on camera and do this, like, like remember what they did to General Colin Powell when he, like,
This is
and he regretted that for the rest of his life,
as he should have.
right? As he should have. So I mean, obviously this is an attempt of regime change. It comes at a time also when we know that Venezuela have the largest oil deposits in the world, rivaling that of even Saudi Arabia. Lula kind of already sold us out on oil and gas and selling it. And much like Israel, the Zionist ethno state has always just wanted the Gaza Strip, removing Maduro and toppling his government represents not just a symbol in their minds of smashing socialism, but also those resources. I mean, U.S. oil and gas companies, and why do they want those resources? Mainly to fuel data centers.
Right.
And Maduro is in the way of the U.S. because he is presiding over his nation's own natural resources, which is, you're not allowed to do that. He didn't read the Monroe Doctrine, I guess.
But the data centers piece, though, is really important, Anthony. Why is that? Because as much as I love an adorable cat or dog animated video, there's a serious problem with why are the data centers such a big deal?
Well, I mean, these things, the only way to describe their energy appetite, Comrade Jackie, is obesity. These data centers are in some cases using more energy than entire cities. And then the other major issue is the water situation, like millions of gallons a day that are required to cool and just to process, all of this energy that is being used, for AI and whatnot. And even white folk, like affluent white folk in Georgia and Alabama, who built their retirement homes away from the city and these pristine areas and whatnot, they're turning on their faucets and water isn't coming out because the data center is located in their municipality is using more water than the municipality even has, and certainly not allowing groundwater aquifers to regenerate in a given time. Now, this is, as when as a student of Marx and Engels and Lenin, this is core and periphery in a nutshell, right? The core of the for the United States even being a premier petrostate, the largest exporter in the world of fossil fuels, frack gas and oil, it does not even have enough to sustain these data centers who Trump has and Democrat Party. Let's just be clear. Right after the election, the failed election of Harris, Hakeem Jeffries was on a private plane to Silicon Valley to get on his knees for these tech companies who are building these data centers that are extracting from communities. So it's a big. I mean, it is. We are late, comrade, as a left in taking this on. Just a quick plug. I wrote a piece for a Black Agenda Report this past week about basically the larger climate network in the United States being controlled opposition. Ironically, a lot of these philanthropists, Jackie, are tech bros.
Oh, wow.
Right? Have you seen a concerted effort by the U.S. climate movement to take on data centers? Like you've seen pipelines? And no, the answer is
no.
Okay. And we're talking about water, we're talking about fossil fuels, and we're talking about emissions associated with them. And so we're next week, we're going to be talking about that on Full Spectrum. We're going to be bringing people on from Bama, Black folk, and Georgia who have been fighting these things. But like, you know, they even make city council sign NDAs, and elements of the Black misleadership class are getting bought. And they are buying communities with these community benefit agreements, which we all know is chitlins, you know, bull chitlins, because we can't curse on this show.
True.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's having a domino effect, you know, turning communities against each other, because, you know, community benefit agreements, it's not the community. Some, you know, the good ones, right? The handpicked good Negroes get their money, and the rest of the community gets all the pollution. So, I mean, that oil that Venezuela possesses is literally black gold for and necessary to continue the engine of global capitalism, and that's also what this is about.
Yeah, and I can't help but think of like the physical geographical location of Venezuela. The access to the water, it doesn't matter that it's not fresh water, because if you think there is not already technology that they're never going to use for our benefit to desalinate ocean, what? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. They're just not going to use it for you and me.
Right.
So,
and they want to install a puppet government that is going to totally be under the thumb of the United States, and basically give away the people of the Bolivarian republics natural resources to core and periphery. It's classic.
And you know, honestly, Anthony, I really appreciate you coming on and doing this show with me and bringing this topic up, because we on the left, sometimes we do forget that people don't understand a lot of the terms that we use. Like I say imperialism all the time, and I do forget that a lot of people do not know what that means. They don't even know that capitalism does not mean like commerce. That's not the same. When we say capitalism is evil and bad and you don't want it and you're not a capitalist just because you are chasing a bag, the people don't understand that we're not saying that going to the store and buying things with money is bad. That's not capitalism. So explaining how the US government is attacking Nicolas Maduro, President Maduro right now, I think is a perfect. And the way you just explained the resources in Venezuela that they want, why they want them, how those resources, if the United States government were to control them, how they would benefit US corporations and US government, and what they are willing to do to control those resources, literally topple another country's government, get rid of their elected leader, install a leader that is friendly to the United States government, who will let them come in and control all the things. And if all of the people in Venezuela die from poverty-induced starvation and violence, oh, well, that's
collateral damage.
Y'all. That is imperialism.
Look, other than Venezuela, the four other most dangerous countries to the imperialist West, including the United States right now, are Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, and Niger. Because basically they were like, get out. You know what I mean? We are taking control of our natural resources. And like Africa, they even sent this curious black gentleman to basically call Comrade Traore a terrorist, essentially.
And Captain Traore made that man apologize.
Exactly. You see, and so and that's why you're right. I mean, the easiest way of core and periphery is like the core needs all of the natural resources that they don't have. The periphery has all these natural resources. They tend to be, they are in so-called global South, or I like to call them intentionally underdeveloped nations. We do not intend to pay, but as my dad said, Africa represents three things for the colonizers: everything they wanted, everything they needed, and everything they didn't want to pay for. And the same thing is Central and South America, right? Like we don't want to pay for those resources,
right?
We can just take them by inciting coups, as was done in Chile, and what is being clearly attempted now in Venezuela. But again, it's these are amateurs. They really underestimate the people of Venezuela. But yeah, core periphery, we need that. We need those resources to fuel our affluence and profligate use of resources. And Maduro's in the way of that happening. And as you said, you install a puppet who will gladly hand those resources over for some chump change and a photo op in the Oval Office.
And but you know what? I'm so glad that you all are listening and you're hearing this, because sometimes I do wonder. Sometimes we do wonder if we're just screaming into a void here on the left, because yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of an echo chamber, because it is difficult to raise the consciousness of the masses, because people don't like their comfortable delusions disrupted. We all deal with this cognitive dissonance. If you think that I am this passionate about the truth that I know, imagine what it was like for me to find out that all of this was a lie. It was an existential crisis for me. But the wonderful thing about WPFW and the listeners of WPFW is that I am convinced y'all are not afraid of some inconvenient truth. And every time we do one of these pledge drives, I am that belief is affirmed. Do you know, you all, we've got a minute left. We need to get out of here, but we didn't just meet our goal. We have exceeded the goal. Thank you all so much. Laurel, Maryland, Chantilly, Virginia, Glen Burnie, Maryland, Whitehall, Pennsylvania, Portland, Oregon. Thank you all so much, but we're not done. We're not done. We've got another week in pledge drive. I expect to see y'all on Full Spectrum on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Then I expect to see you again next Friday at 2 o'clock on Resistance Radio, and be right back here next Friday at 5 o'clock for Darker Than Blue. Thank you so much for supporting WPFW, the voice of independent thinkers and the voice of jazz and justice, where we absolutely are changing the world, yours and mine, one broadcast at a time. This has been Darker Than Blue. Got to get out of here. As always, a luta continua. The struggle continues. But if we keep telling the truth, y'all, Victoria Acerta. Victory is certain. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Woo-wee. All right. Thank y'all so much. Just a really little quickie. The pledge drives are a little bit difficult because you have to pledge and you don't get enough time to talk about what you really want to talk about. But that's how the station WPFW stays on the air. That's how I continue to have the outlet on a major FM radio station that reaches beyond Washington, D.C. That's how I am able to expand the audience of the people who hear this truth. And that's how I think I am doing my part in raising the consciousness of the masses. I don't fashion myself as anyone who knows any more than anybody else. I just really love to share the information that I get with the people who I know absolutely need it, and that's you. Because if it excites me when I hear about the truth, I just kind of imagine, man, how much more excited are other people gonna be when they find out that, oh my God, this is how things really work. That's why I do what I do. And I really appreciate y'all's support. Thank you so much for watching this afternoon. And now I've got to get ready for an in-person internal study session tomorrow that will be held right here at Lukman Manor. So I've got some cooking and some straightening up to do, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.